6 months after losing her little sister Maya in a terrible car accident, photographer Zara Chen traveled to the African savanna, hoping to escape her broken heart. She never expected to find a baby elephant named Kesi stuck in a mud pit, crying for help. She definitely never expected to risk her own life to save him. But when Zara pulled Kesi to safety, something incredible happened. Instead of running back to his family, the baby elephant stayed by her side. Then his entire herd arrived. 20 massive elephants who could have crushed her in seconds. What they did next shocked Zara to her core. These wild elephants didn't attack her or chase her away. They adopted her. They sang her songs. They learned to speak her name. And when scientists finally discovered what was happening, they couldn't believe their eyes. These elephants were doing things that science said was impossible. But here's what no one knew. Evil people were watching, too. People who saw these amazing elephants not as a family to protect, but as the most valuable animals on Earth. Will Zara's love for her elephant family be strong enough to save them from those who want to steal them? And what is the incredible secret about elephant intelligence that will change the world forever? The tall grass of the Kenyan savanna scratched against Zara Chen's legs as she walked carefully through the golden plains. The hot African sun beat down on her shoulders, making sweat drip from her dark hair. She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand and adjusted the heavy camera hanging around her neck. Zara had come to Kenya to take pictures of wild animals. But really, she came here to run away from her sadness. 6 months ago, her little sister Maya died in a terrible car accident. Maya was only 8 years old, with bright eyes and a laugh that sounded like music. Now Maya was gone forever, and Zara felt like half of her heart had been ripped away. Maybe, if I get far enough from home, the hurt will stop following me, Zara whispered to herself as she walked through the endless grass. She was wrong. The hurt followed her everywhere, even to Africa. Zara stopped walking and looked around. Acacia trees dotted the landscape like giant umbrellas. In the distance, she could see zebras grazing peacefully. A few giraffes stretched their long necks to eat leaves from the treetops. It was beautiful, but Zara felt too empty inside to enjoy it. She raised her camera and took a picture of a colorful bird sitting on a branch. Click! The bird flew away, just like everything else she loved. Zara thought sadly. Suddenly, a sound made her freeze. It was a crying noise, high and desperate. It sounded almost like a human baby, but different. Zara had never heard anything like it before. The crying came again, louder this time. It was coming from somewhere ahead of her, past a small hill covered with thorny bushes. Zara's heart started beating faster. In Kenya, strange sounds could mean danger. Lions, leopards, and other predators lived in these grasslands. But the crying sounded so sad and scared that Zara couldn't ignore it. "Hello?" she called out, feeling foolish. Animals don't answer when you talk to them. The crying stopped for a moment, then started again. This time, it sounded even more desperate. Zara climbed over the small hill, pushing through the scratchy bushes. On the other side, she saw something that made her gasp. There was a deep pit in the ground where a watering hole used to be. The water had dried up long ago, leaving only thick, sticky mud at the bottom. And stuck in that mud, crying pitifully, was the tiniest baby elephant Zara had ever seen. The little elephant was only about 3 feet tall. Fuzzy gray hair covered his head like a cap. His trunk, still short and clumsy, reached up toward the edge of the pit, as if begging for help. His dark eyes looked up at Zara with an expression so human-like that it made her chest ache. "Oh no," Zara breathed. "Oh, you poor little thing." She looked around quickly. Where was the baby's mother? Where was his herd? Baby elephants never traveled alone, but as far as Zara could see, there were no other elephants anywhere. The baby elephant saw her and cried louder. He was trying to climb out of the pit, but the mud was too deep and slippery. Every time he struggled, he sank deeper into the thick brown mess. Zara's photography training had taught her about African wildlife. She knew that baby elephants could die quickly in the hot sun without water. This little one had probably been stuck here for hours, maybe even a whole day. His skin was starting to look dry and cracked. "Don't worry, little guy," Zara said, surprising herself. She hadn't felt like helping anyone or anything since Maya died. But looking at this scared, helpless baby elephant, she felt something stir in her heart, something that had been sleeping for 6 months. The baby elephant reminded her of Maya. Not because they looked alike, but because of the way he reached for her with complete trust. The same way Maya used to reach for Zara when she was frightened. Zara couldn't save Maya, but maybe she could save this baby elephant. She studied the pit carefully. It was about 6 feet deep and 8 feet across. The sides were steep and muddy. Even if she climbed down, how would she get back up with a baby elephant? But she had to try. First, Zara took off her camera and set it safely on the ground. Then, she removed the long strap and her hiking rope from her backpack. If she was going to do this, she needed all the help she could get. "I'm coming down, sweetie," she told the baby elephant. "My name is Zara. What should I call you?" The baby elephant made a soft rumbling sound, different from his crying. It almost sounded like he was trying to answer her. Zara thought for a moment. "How about Kesi?" It means born during hard times in Swahili. That seems perfect for you. Kesi made the rumbling sound again, as if he liked his new name. Taking a deep breath, Zara lowered herself into the pit. The smell hit her immediately. Rotting, plants, stagnant water, and something else she didn't want to think about. The mud was deeper than she expected, coming up to her knees. "Okay, Kesi," she said, trying to sound braver than she felt. "Let's get you out of here." But as soon as Zara reached him, she realized how difficult this was going to be. Kesi might be a baby, but he weighed as much as a grown man, and he was stuck deep in the thick mud. The hot sun burned down on them both. Sweat poured from Zara's face as she worked. She dug around Kesi's legs with her bare hands, trying to loosen the mud's grip on him. Her hands started to bleed from the rough work. But she didn't stop. Kesi seemed to understand that she was trying to help. He held very still and made soft rumbling sounds as if he was encouraging her. "That's right, baby," Zara panted. "We're going to get you out of here. I promise." It was the first promise she had made to anyone since Maya died. For the next 2 hours, Zara dug and pushed and pulled. She used her camera strap to create a harness around Kesi's chest. She tied her hiking rope to nearby rocks to give herself something to pull against. The work was exhausting. The sun made her dizzy. Her clothes were covered in mud, and her hands were raw and bleeding. But slowly, very slowly, she felt Kesi starting to move. "Come on, Kesi," she whispered. "Come on, baby. You can do it." With one final, tremendous effort, Kesi pulled his back legs free from the mud. Zara helped him scramble up the slippery side of the pit, both of them slipping and sliding until they finally collapsed on solid ground. They lay there for several minutes, both exhausted. Zara's water bottle was nearly empty, but she poured the rest into her cupped hands and offered it to Kesi. He drank it gratefully, his little trunk surprisingly gentle against her palms. When the water was gone, Kesi did something that made Zara's eyes fill with tears. He reached out with his tiny trunk and wrapped it around her wrist, like a hug. It was exactly the kind of gesture Maya used to make when she wanted to say, "Thank you." "You're welcome, sweetie," Zara whispered, stroking Kesi's fuzzy head. "You're going to be okay? Now." But even as she said the words, Zara heard something that made her blood turn cold. Deep, rumbling calls echoed across the savanna. The ground beneath them started to shake, with heavy footsteps. Zara looked up and saw something that took her breath away. A massive herd of elephants was coming over the hill, and they were heading straight toward her and Kesi. Their trumpeting calls sounded angry and worried. There had to be at least 20 of them. Huge adults with long tusks moving like a gray storm cloud across the plains. And Zara was sitting in their path with their baby. The elephant herd moved across the golden grassland like a living mountain range. Zara's heart hammered in her chest as she counted them. At least 20 massive elephants, their gray bodies casting long shadows in the late afternoon sun. The lead elephant was enormous. She had to be the grandmother of the whole family. Her sear tusks were long and curved like ancient ivory swords. Her ears spread wide, making her look even bigger and more frightening. But it was her eyes that scared Zara the most. Dark, intelligent, and completely focused on her. Behind the grandmother came the rest of the herd. Adult females with babies walking beneath them. Teenage elephants staying close to their mothers. A few massive bulls with tusks that could crush a car. Their trumpeting calls filled the air, echoing across the savanna like thunder. The ground shook under Zara's feet with each step they took. She had never felt so small and helpless in her entire life. "Stay calm," Zara whispered to herself, remembering what her safari guide had told her about elephant behavior. "Don't run. Don't make sudden movements. They can run faster than you anyway." But her hands were shaking, and her mouth felt as dry as the desert. Kesi heard his family coming and made excited chirping sounds. Zara expected him to run toward them immediately, the way any baby would run to its mother after being lost and scared. Instead, something strange happened. Kesi stayed right next to Zara's side. His little trunk touched her leg gently, as if he was trying to comfort her instead of leaving her behind. "Go to them, Kesi," Zara said softly. "Those are your people, your real family." But Kesi just pressed closer to her and made soft rumbling sounds. It was like he was saying, "You saved me. Now you're my family too." The grandmother elephant stopped about 10 feet away from Zara and Kesi. Up close, she was even more impressive. Her head was massive, covered with deep wrinkles that spoke of many years of wisdom. Her trunk swayed back and forth as she studied Zara with those piercing dark eyes. The rest of the herd spread out behind her, forming a semicircle around Zara and Kesi. There was nowhere to run, even if Zara had wanted to try. Zara forced herself to sit very still. She had read that elephants could sense fear, and right now, she was terrified. What if they thought she had hurt Kesi? What if they saw her as a threat to their baby? The grandmother took one step closer, then another. Her massive foot could crush Zara without even trying. Then something incredible happened. Instead of the angry trumpet call Zara expected, the grandmother made a deep, gentle, rumbling sound. It was completely different from the loud calls she'd been making before. This sound was soft and warm, like the purr of a giant cat. Kesi immediately answered with his own baby rumble. The two elephants seemed to be having a conversation, and Zara was listening to a language she had never heard before. Other elephants joined in. Soon the air was filled with soft rumbling sounds as the whole herd talked to each other. The angry trumpeting had stopped completely. Now they sounded curious, maybe even friendly. The grandmother elephant stepped even closer to Zara. Her enormous head lowered until she was looking directly into Zara's eyes from just 3 feet away. Zara held her breath as the grandmother's trunk reached out toward her. The trunk was thick and powerful, covered with coarse hair and deep wrinkles. It could grab her and throw her across the savanna if the elephant wanted to. Instead, the trunk touched Zara's face with surprising gentleness. It explored her cheeks, her forehead, her hair. The grandmother was sniffing her, learning her scent, trying to understand who she was and what she had done. Then the grandmother did something that made Zara gasp. She touched Zara's muddy clothes and bleeding hands with the tip of her trunk. The elephant could smell the mud from the pit where Kesi had been trapped. She could see the cuts on Zara's hands from digging him out. The grandmother elephant made a sound that Zara had never heard from any animal before. It was like crying, but deeper, sadder, more grateful. Clear drops of water rolled down from the grandmother's eyes. She was crying. This massive wild elephant was crying because she understood that Zara had saved her grandchild. More elephants came forward. A young mother with a baby of her own touched Zara's shoulder, gently with her trunk. A teenage elephant brushed against her arm. Soon, Zara was surrounded by gentle trunks, touching her carefully, exploring her clothes and skin and scent. It was like being examined by a group of doctors, except these doctors weighed several tons each and could communicate with each other in a language of rumbles and trunk touches. Kesi stayed pressed against Zara's side through the whole experience, making soft, encouraging sounds. It was like he was telling his family, "This human is good. She helped me. She's safe." The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Zara realized she had been sitting with the elephant herd for over an hour, and they showed no signs of wanting to leave. Then, the grandmother elephant did something that took Zara's breath away. She trumpeted once, loudly and clearly. It wasn't an angry sound or a scared sound. It was like a command, or maybe an announcement. Every elephant in the herd responded immediately. They began moving into a perfect circle around Zara and Kesi, but they weren't threatening or aggressive. They were protecting. As the last light faded from the sky, all 20 elephants lay down on the ground around Zara and Kesi. Their massive bodies created a living wall of gray skin and gentle breathing. "What are you doing?" Zara whispered in amazement. She got her answer when Kesi curled up next to her like an enormous puppy. The baby elephant pressed his warm, rough side against her and closed his eyes with a contented sigh. The elephant herd was protecting both of them for the night. They were keeping Zara safe, the same way they would keep any member of their family safe. For the first time since Maya died, Zara didn't feel alone. She was surrounded by gentle giants who had somehow decided she belonged with them. She put her arm around Kesi and listened to the peaceful sounds of the herd settling down for sleep. Deep breathing, soft rumbles, the occasional shuffle as someone got more comfortable. Above them, the African stars came out one by one, brighter than any stars Zara had ever seen. The air smelled like grass and dust, and the warm scent of elephant skin. As Zara drifted off to sleep, she thought about Maya. Her little sister would have loved this. Maya had always believed in magic, in the idea that animals could be friends with people if you were kind enough and patient enough. "Maybe you sent me here, Maya," Zara whispered to the stars. "Maybe you knew I needed a new family?" Kesi rumbled softly in his sleep, and Zara smiled for the first time in 6 months. But as wonderful as this moment was, Zara had no idea that something even more incredible was about to happen. Something that would change everything scientists thought they knew about elephants. Something that would prove these gentle giants were far more amazing than anyone had ever imagined. Tomorrow would bring discoveries that would stun the world. Zara woke up to the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. Soft rumbling filled the air around her, like the world's deepest choir singing a gentle song. The first rays of sunrise painted the African sky in shades of pink and gold, and all around her, 20 elephants were making music together. At first, Zara thought she was dreaming. Then she felt Kesi's warm body pressed against her side, his tiny trunk still wrapped around her wrist like a security blanket. She was really here, surrounded by a family of wild elephants who had adopted her as one of their own. "Good morning, little guy," Zara whispered, stroking Kesi's fuzzy head. Kesi opened his bright eyes and made happy chirping sounds when he saw her awake. It was like he was saying "good morning" right back to her. But as Zara listened more carefully to the elephant sounds around her, she realized something amazing. These weren't just random rumbles and calls. The elephants were having actual conversations. The TD grandmother made a series of low, deep sounds. A young mother answered with different rumbles. Then another adult added their voice to the discussion. Back and forth they talked, just like people having a conversation over breakfast. Even more incredible, sometimes the elephants looked directly at Zara while they made their sounds as if they were talking about her. "What are you saying about me?" Zara asked softly. The grandmother heard her voice and came over. She made a questioning rumble that sounded almost like, "How are you feeling this morning?" Without thinking, Zara tried to copy the sound. Her attempt was rough and probably sounded silly, but the grandmother's eyes lit up with what looked like delight. She repeated her rumble, slower this time, like she was teaching Zara the right way to say it. Other elephants gathered around to watch this amazing lesson. A teenage elephant made a different sound, and when Zara tried to copy that one too, the whole group rumbled with what sounded like approval. Kesi was especially excited. He made his own baby sounds and looked back and forth between Zara and the adults, like he was saying, "Look, my human is learning to speak elephant." As the morning went on, Zara began to notice patterns in the elephant language. When they wanted to move somewhere, they made one type of rumble. When they were happy, the sound was higher and lighter. When they were warning each other about something dangerous, the rumble was sharp and quick. The most amazing thing was how they included Zara in their conversations. When the herd decided to walk to a nearby watering hole, The grandmother looked at Zara and made a questioning rumble. It was clearly asking, "Do you want to come with us?" When Zara stood up and nodded, the whole herd made pleased rumbling sounds. They were happy that she wanted to stay with them. They walked together across the savanna like a real family. Kesi stayed close to Zara's side, but other elephants walked near her too. The teenage elephants seemed especially curious about her camera, reaching out to touch it gently with the tips of their trunks. "Careful with that," Zara laughed. "It's how I make pictures of beautiful things like you." One teenage elephant made a sound that almost sounded like laughter in response. At the watering hole, Zara watched something that made her heart swell with happiness. The elephants took turns drinking, with the babies going first. They sprayed water on each other, playfully, splashing and rumbling with joy. The mothers helped the smallest babies reach the water safely, supporting them with their trunks. And they made sure Zara got fresh water too. The grandmother actually filled her trunk with clean water and sprayed it carefully into Zara's empty water bottle. "How did you know I needed water?" Zara asked in amazement. The grandmother made a gentle rumble that seemed to say, "We take care of our family." That's when Zara realized something incredible. These elephants weren't just being kind to her. By accident, they were watching her carefully, learning about what she needed, and taking care of her exactly the way they took care of each other. They had truly adopted her into their family. As the day continued, Zara became braver about trying to communicate back. When she was thirsty, she tried to make the rumbling sound that seemed to mean water. The elephants understood immediately and helped her find a clean stream. When she was tired, she sat down and made what she hoped was the sound for rest. The elephants gathered around her, creating shade with their massive bodies so she could cool down. By afternoon, Zara felt like she was learning a completely new language. Not just the sounds, but the trunk touches, the ear positions, even the way the elephants stood told her things about how they were feeling. The teenage elephants taught her that quick, light trunk touches meant hello. Longer touches meant I care about you. And when Kesi wrapped his trunk around her wrist, it meant you're my family. But the most amazing discovery came in the evening, as the herd settled down for their second night together. All 20 elephants arranged themselves in a circle around Zara and Kesi, just like the night before. But this time, instead of just lying down to sleep, they began to make music. It started with the grandmother's deep, rich rumble. Then other adults joined in, adding their voices to create a harmony that seemed to shake the very air. The teenage elephants added higher notes, and the babies chirped sweet sounds on top. At first, Zara just listened in wonder. Then she realized something that made her gasp out loud. The melody sounded familiar, the pattern of high and low sounds, the rhythm, the way it rose and fell. It was just like the lullaby she used to sing to Maya. The same lullaby she had hummed while digging Kesi out of the mud pit 2 days ago. "That's impossible," Zara whispered. But she began to hum along softly, and the elephant's eyes lit up with excitement. They had learned her song. Somehow, these incredible animals had been listening to her humming for 2 days. And now they were singing Maya's lullaby back to her in their own beautiful elephant language. Tears streamed down Zara's face as the elephant choir continued. It felt like a message from Maya herself, telling her that she wasn't alone, that love could bridge any gap, even the gap between different species. When the song ended, the grandmother elephant came over to Zara one more time. She looked directly into Zara's eyes and made a sound that was different from all the others. It almost sounded like a word, a human word. Zara, the grandmother seemed to say. Zara's heart stopped. Did you just say my name? The grandmother tried again, more clearly this time. Zara! Other elephants heard and tried it too. Soon the whole herd was attempting to say her name in their deep, rumbly voices. Zara, Zara. Kesi, not wanting to be left out, made his own attempt. Za, he managed, and Zara laughed through her tears. How is this possible? She wondered aloud. As she lay down to sleep surrounded by her elephant family, Zara realized that something extraordinary was happening here. These elephants weren't just smart in the way people thought animals were smart. They were learning human songs, trying to speak human words, and showing a kind of intelligence that scientists said was impossible. They had also shown her a type of love she thought she had lost forever when Maya died. But Zara had no idea that their incredible story was about to become even more amazing. Tomorrow would bring visitors who would change everything, and the world would finally learn the truth about just how remarkable elephants could be. The real adventure was only beginning. On her third day with the elephant herd, Zara discovered something that would change everything she thought she knew about animal intelligence. She was sitting with Kesi under a large acacia tree, watching the older elephants teach the babies how to strip bark for eating. The morning sun felt warm on her shoulders, and for the first time since Maya's death, Zara felt truly peaceful. Then the grandmother elephant approached them with a look in her eyes that Zara had never seen before. Instead of her usual gentle rumbling, the grandmother made a completely new sound. It was unlike anything Zara had heard from the elephants so far. The sound was complex and musical, a series of rumbles that went up and down like a complicated song. Long notes, short notes, high pitches, and low pitches, all woven together in a pattern that was almost like music. Kesi immediately perked up when he heard it. His little ears flapped with excitement, and he answered with his own series of musical rumbles. Then he looked at Zara with bright, expectant eyes. "I don't understand, sweetie," Zara said softly. "What are you trying to tell me?" The grandmother tried again, making the exact same complex pattern of sounds. This time, other elephants heard her and came over to join in. One by one, they added their voices to create the most beautiful harmony Zara had ever heard. All 20 elephants were making the same sequence of musical rumbles together, like a perfectly trained choir. But there was something else hidden in their song. Something that made Zara's heart race with recognition. The melody was familiar. The rhythm, the way certain notes were higher and others lower, the pattern that repeated over and over. It sounded like the lullaby she used to sing to Maya, but it was more than just similar. As Zara listened more carefully, she realized the elephants had taken her simple human lullaby and turned it into something magnificent. They had added harmonies, created variations, and made it uniquely their own while keeping the heart of Maya's song alive. "That's impossible," Zara whispered, but even as she said it, she knew it was true. She began to hum Maya's lullaby very softly. Immediately, all the elephants' eyes lit up with excitement. They rumbled happily and repeated their version of the song, making it sound even more like her lullaby than before. Kesi wrapped his trunk around her wrist and made the gentlest sound she had ever heard from him. It was like he was saying, "Yes, you understand? This is your song, but now it's our song too." Tears rolled down Zara's face as she realized what had happened. These incredible elephants had been listening to her hum Maya's lullaby for 3 days. They had learned it, memorized it, and transformed it into their own elephant language. Now they were giving it back to her as a gift. It felt like a message from Maya herself, carried by 20 gentle giants who had somehow understood that this song was important to the human they had adopted. But the elephants weren't finished with their surprises. That evening, as the African sun painted the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, something even more extraordinary happened. The herd arranged themselves in a perfect spiral around Zara and Kesi instead of their usual circle. Then they began their musical conversation again. But this time, it was different from anything they had done before. Each elephant seemed to have their own special part in the song. The massive adults provided deep, steady rhythms that Zara could feel in her chest. The teenage elephants added playful middle notes that danced around the melody. The babies chirped high, sweet sounds that sparkled on top like stars. It was the most beautiful music Zara had ever heard, and it was being performed just for her. As the Elephant Symphony continued, Zara began to hear something amazing in their song. The rumbles weren't random. They were telling a story. She could hear the sad part where a baby was lost and scared. Then came the hopeful part where a kind human appeared. Next was the joyful part where the baby was saved and brought to safety. Finally came the triumphant part where the human was welcomed into the family. They were singing about her, about Kesi's rescue, about her adoption into their family, about the love that had grown between them. The elephants had created their own musical story about their experience together. When the song ended, the grandmother elephant approached Zara one more time. But instead of rumbling, she made a sound that was softer and more careful than anything Zara had heard. Before, it sounded almost like a human word. "Zara," the grandmother said clearly. Zara's heart nearly stopped. "You're saying my name." The grandmother nodded, actually nodded like a person would, and repeated the sound more clearly. "Zara." Other elephants heard and began trying it too. "Zara, Zara." Their deep voices wrapped around her name like a warm hug. Kesi, determined not to be left out, made his own brave attempt. "Zaza," he managed, and Zara laughed with pure joy. "Yes, baby, that's my name. I'm Zaza." But the grandmother wasn't finished. She pointed with her trunk toward Zara, then toward herself, then toward the whole herd. Then she made a new sound that took Zara's breath away. "Family," the grandmother said in careful, broken English. "Zara, family." The word hung in the air like magic. These wild African elephants were trying to speak English, not just copying sounds, but using human words with meaning and purpose. "Family," Zara repeated, crying freely now. "Yes, we're family." All the elephants rumbled with happiness, and several tried to repeat the word. Family, family. That night, as Zara lay surrounded by her elephant family under the vast African stars, she tried to understand what was happening. To her, these elephants had done things that scientists said were impossible. They had learned a human song and made it their own. They had created original music to tell their story. They were attempting to speak English words with clear meaning. Most incredible of all, they had shown her a kind of love and acceptance that she thought she had lost forever when Maya died. But as amazing as all of this was, Zara had no idea that their story together was about to become even more unbelievable. Tomorrow would bring visitors from the outside world, people who would be stunned by what they witnessed. The secret of the musical elephants was about to be revealed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The real mystery was still waiting to unfold. On the fourth morning, Zara woke up to a sound that didn't belong in the African wilderness, the harsh chop, chop, chop of helicopter blades cutting through the peaceful dawn air. The elephants were already alert and standing. Their ears were spread wide, and they made low warning rumbles as they moved closer together around Zara and Kesi. The grandmother stepped protectively in front of them, her massive body like a gray wall between her family and whatever was coming. "It's okay," Zara tried to reassure them, but her own heart was beating fast. She hadn't seen other humans in 4 days, and she had almost forgotten that a world existed beyond her elephant family. The helicopter landed about 100 yards away in a cloud of dust and noise. 3 people climbed out, all wearing khaki, research clothes and carrying scientific equipment that looked heavy and expensive. The man leading the group was tall and moved with confidence across the savanna. Behind him came a woman with short blonde hair and a younger man who looked like he knew the area well. "There she is!" the woman shouted, pointing toward Zara. "The missing photographer!" They started walking toward the elephant herd, but immediately the elephants reacted. All 20 of them moved into a defensive formation, creating a solid wall of gray bodies between the strangers and Zara. The grandmother stepped forward, spreading her ears as wide as they would go, and making deep, threatening rumbles. "Stop!" Zara called out to the approaching people. "Don't come any closer! They're protecting me!" The lead man raised a pair of binoculars to study the scene. "This is extraordinary," he muttered. "Wild elephants don't behave this way with humans." "Zara Chen," the blonde woman called out, "we're here to rescue you. Your photography team reported you missing 4 days ago. Everyone's been worried sick." "I don't need rescuing," Zara shouted back, surprising herself with how firmly she said it. "I'm perfectly safe here." The 3 strangers looked at each other with confused expressions. The younger man spoke up with a Kenyan accent. "Miss, you cannot stay with wild elephants. It is very dangerous." Kesi made an unhappy rumbling sound and pressed even closer to Zara's side. The grandmother made a different sound, not angry exactly, but very firm. She was clearly telling the strangers to stay away from her adopted human daughter. "I'm Dr. James Mukaro," the lead man called out. "I've been studying elephants in Kenya for 20 years, and I've never seen behavior like this. How are you still alive?" That gave Zara an idea. If these scientists wanted to understand what was happening, she would show them something that would change their minds about elephants forever. "Watch this. Jortis, Kees, Chanentrait," she called back. She turned to the grandmother elephant and made the soft rumbling sound she had learned meant hello in elephant language. The grandmother immediately rumbled back in the same gentle tone, then reached out with her trunk to touch Zara's face affectionately. The 3 scientists gasped out loud. "Did that elephant just respond to her?" the blonde woman whispered. "It gets much better," Zara said. "Watch." She looked at Kesi and made the questioning rumble that meant, "Are you happy, little one?" Kesi answered immediately with his pleased chirping sound and wrapped his trunk around her wrist in their special greeting. Dr. Mukaro nearly dropped his binoculars. "She's actually communicating with them. This is impossible." "Not just communicating," Zara called back. "Listen to this." She began humming Maya's lullaby, the same tune she had sung every evening since arriving. Immediately, all 20 elephants joined in with their beautiful rumbling harmony. Their voices blended together perfectly, creating music that seemed to make the very air shimmer with beauty. The scientists stood in stunned silence as the elephant choir performed their version of a human lullaby. "My God," the blonde woman breathed. "They're singing with her." When the song ended, Zara looked at the amazed scientists. "They learned my lullaby. They sing it with me every night. And watch this." She looked directly at the grandmother elephant and said clearly, "Can you tell these people my name?" The grandmother responded immediately in her careful, deep voice. "Zara." Dr. Mukaro's clipboard fell to the ground with a thud. That elephant just spoke a human word. "They all can," Zara said proudly. "Show them, everyone." Soon the whole herd was rumbling "Zara" in their gentle voices, like a chorus of giants saying her name with love. The 3 scientists stood frozen in shock for a full minute. Finally, the blonde woman found her voice. "Miss Chen, I'm Dr. Sarah Walsh from the International Animal Behavior Institute. Do you understand what you've discovered here? Elephants aren't supposed to be able to learn human songs or attempt human speech. This changes everything we know about animal intelligence." "There's so much more," Zara said. "They've created their own music about our story together. They've adopted me completely into their family. They take care of me, bring me gifts, and include me in all their family decisions." Dr. Mukaro shook his head in amazement. "We need to document this immediately. The scientific community will never believe it without solid proof." "But we have to be very careful," Dr. Walsh added, her voice becoming serious. "If word gets out about elephants this intelligent, it could put them in terrible danger. There are people who would want to capture them, study them in laboratories, or worse." Zara's blood turned ice cold. She looked at her elephant family, at Kesi playing innocently with the other babies, at the teenagers showing off for each other, at the wise grandmother who had welcomed her with such incredible kindness. "No one is taking them anywhere," she said fiercely. "We're not suggesting that," Dr. Mukaro said quickly, "but this discovery is too important to keep secret. The world needs to know how truly remarkable elephants are. It could change laws, change how we treat all animals. We just need to be smart about how we share this information," Dr. Walsh agreed. As the scientists and Zara continued talking, with the elephant herd listening carefully to every word, none of them noticed something important happening. The grandmother elephant was making very specific patterns of rumbles, not to her own herd, but toward the distant horizon. She was calling to other elephant families across the savanna, sharing news of the human who could speak their language. And in the far distance, other herds were answering back. Something much bigger than any of them could imagine was about to happen. The elephants had been talking to each other across miles of wilderness, and they had made a decision that would change everything. Tomorrow would bring the most incredible sight any of them had ever witnessed. That afternoon, Dr. Mukaro set up his recording equipment while Dr. Walsh took detailed notes. about every amazing thing she witnessed. They couldn't believe what they were seeing with their own eyes. When Zara made the rumbling sound for water, 3 elephants immediately helped her drink from a nearby stream. When she signaled that she was tired, the herd quickly created a shady resting spot by positioning their massive bodies like living umbrellas. When she hummed her lullaby, every single elephant joined in with perfect harmony. 20 years of studying elephants, Dr. Mukaro muttered as he recorded everything on his camera. And I've never seen anything even close to this. But as the day went on, something strange started happening that made everyone nervous. Distant trumpeting calls began echoing across the endless savanna. Calls that definitely weren't coming from their herd. The grandmother elephant lifted her head and spread her ears wide, listening carefully to the faraway sounds. Then she made her own responding rumbles, deep and powerful. Soon, all the elephants in Zara's adopted family were making calls toward the horizon, their voices carrying for miles across the golden grassland. "What are they doing?" Dr. Walsh asked, looking worried. Zara listened carefully to the elephant conversation. After 4 days with the herd, she was starting to understand much more of their complex language. I think they're talking to other elephants," she said slowly. "Elephants that are very far away." Kofi, the Kenyan guide, looked around nervously. "Other herds are coming. I can feel it in the ground, vibrations from many heavy footsteps." "Sure, enough." As the sun started to set behind the acacia trees, dark shapes began appearing on the distant hills. Not just one group of elephants, but many separate herds, all moving steadily toward them. One herd appeared on the eastern hill, then another from the south, then a third group from the west. Soon, Zara could count 4, 5, 6 different elephant families, all heading in their direction. "This is completely unprecedented," Dr. Walsh whispered, frantically scribbling notes. "Multiple elephant herds don't usually gather together unless there's a severe drought, or it's migration season, but it's neither of those things right now." The grandmother elephant walked over to Zara and made a complex series of gentle rumbles. Even though the sounds were in elephant language, the message was crystal clear. "Don't be afraid. They're coming to meet you." "Meet me?" Zara said out loud, her heart racing. "But why would they want to meet me?" Kesi chirped excitedly and pointed his little trunk toward the approaching herds. His body language was easy to read. He was basically saying, "You're famous now. Everyone has heard about the human who speaks elephant language." As the first new herd arrived at their gathering spot, Zara saw something that took her breath completely away. The lead elephant of this group was absolutely ancient, even older and more impressive than her grandmother. His tusks were massive and scarred from many battles over his long lifetime. He had to be the grandfather of all elephants in this entire region of Kenya. But instead of being aggressive or territorial, the old grandfather approached Zara very slowly and gently. He made deep rumbling sounds to her grandmother, and she rumbled back respectfully. They were having a serious, important conversation about Zara, and she could only understand bits and pieces of it. Then the ancient grandfather elephant did something that made Zara gasp in amazement. He actually bowed his enormous head to her. Really bowed, like a person showing deep respect to someone they honored. "Zara," he said in his incredibly deep, ancient voice. More elephant herds continued arriving as darkness fell across the savanna. Soon, Zara found herself surrounded by over 100 elephants from 6 completely different families. The scene looked like something from a fairy tale. Circles upon circles of elephants lit by silver moonlight, all peacefully gathered around one small human woman. Dr. Mukaro's hands were shaking as he tried to record everything. This is the largest peaceful gathering of elephant herds ever documented by science, he whispered in amazement. But the elephants weren't finished with their incredible surprises. As if they were all responding to some invisible signal that only elephants could sense, all 100 magnificent animals began to sing together. It was Zara's lullaby, but now it had become a massive chorus of rumbling voices creating the most beautiful music anyone had ever heard. The sound carried across the savanna for many miles. In the distance, lions stopped their hunting to listen in wonder. Groups of zebras raised their heads with curiosity. Even the night birds fell completely silent to hear the elephant symphony. Tears streamed down Zara's face as she realized what was truly happening here. These elephants hadn't just accepted her into one family. They were celebrating her as part of the entire elephant community. They were showing her that she belonged to something much bigger and more wonderful than she had ever imagined. She belonged to all of them. When their magnificent song finally ended, the ancient grandfather elephant made what sounded like a speech in deep, rumbling elephant language. Zara couldn't understand most of the complex words, but she caught the most important ones. Zara, family, welcome, and protect. All the other elephants trumpeted loudly in agreement, their calls echoing like thunder across the night. "What is he saying?" Dr. Walsh asked breathlessly. Zara wiped the tears from her eyes and tried to translate what she had understood. I think he's telling everyone that I'm under their protection. All of them. Forever." Dr. Mukaro stopped recording and stared at her with wide eyes. "You're not just studying elephant behavior anymore, Miss Chen. You've actually become part of it." As the night deepened, the 6 elephant herds arranged themselves in perfect concentric circles around Zara and Kesi. It looked like a giant elephant city, with Zara sitting safely in the very center of it all. She fell asleep that night, listening to gentle rumbling conversations in elephant language, feeling safer and more loved than she had felt since Maya died. But while Zara slept peacefully, in the heart of the massive elephant gathering, Dr. Walsh quietly made a decision that would change everything. She carefully activated her satellite phone and sent an urgent message to the International Trotafrifis. Wildlife Research Council have discovered unprecedented elephant intelligence and behavior. Immediate scientific study required. GPS coordinates attached. Within just a few hours, her message would reach researchers, journalists, and wildlife enthusiasts all around the world. By morning, news of the mysterious elephant whisperer would be spreading rapidly across the internet. Scientists, reporters, and curious people from everywhere would want to see Zara and her incredible elephant family. The peaceful, magical days of living quietly with the herd were about to end forever. But none of them, not Zara, not the scientists, not even the wise old grandfather elephant, knew about the real danger that was already heading their way. Because some people didn't want to study these amazing elephants. They wanted to own them. Zara woke up to the sound of many helicopters, not just one like the day before, but so many that the noise was deafening. The elephant herds were already on high alert. Over 100 massive animals stood protectively around her, their ears spread wide and their eyes scanning the sky. The ancient grandfather elephant trumpeted loudly. Not the gentle rumbles Zara had grown used to, but sharp, angry warning calls. At least 8 helicopters circled overhead like mechanical vultures while trucks rumbled across the savanna toward them from every direction. News vans with satellite dishes, research vehicles packed with equipment, and other trucks that Zara couldn't identify from this distance. "What's happening?" she asked Dr. Walsh, who looked guilty and very worried. "I had to report our discovery," Dr. Walsh said defensively. "The scientific community has a right to know about this breakthrough." Dr. Maccaro shook his head in disappointment. "Sarah, you should have waited until we could control the situation better. Now look what you've done." The helicopters began landing in a wide circle around the elephant gathering, kicking up clouds of dust and noise. People poured out of the aircraft, scientists carrying heavy equipment, journalists with cameras and microphones, and men in expensive business suits who definitely didn't look like researchers. The elephants didn't like any of this. Over 100 massive animals shifted nervously, moving closer together with Zara protected at their center. The grandfather elephant made deep warning rumbles that sounded like thunder rolling across the plains. A man in a white lab coat approached, with a megaphone, making his voice echo across the savanna. "Miss Chen, I'm Dr. Victor Hartwell from the Global Animal Intelligence Institute. We need to document your communication abilities with these elephants immediately." Before Zara could respond, the grandmother elephant stepped between her and the strangers. Her message was crystal clear. No one was getting close to her adopted human daughter. But Dr. Hartwell wasn't alone. A woman in a sharp business suit stepped forward with her own megaphone. "Miss Chen, I'm Rebecca Stone from Wonderworld Animal Parks. We're prepared to offer you $10 million for exclusive rights to your elephant communication methods." Zara's blood turned to ice water. "Rights? These aren't my elephants. They're wild, free animals." "But you can communicate with them," Ms. Stone shouted back. "Think of what we could teach the world. Imagine elephant shows where the animals actually talk to the audience. Think of the educational value." The elephants understood enough of what was happening to know they were being threatened. The grandfather trumpeted angrily, and all 100 elephants responded with their own furious calls. The sound was so loud, it hurt everyone's ears. More people arrived throughout the morning, making the situation worse every hour. Wildlife photographers pushed closer with huge cameras. Documentary filmmakers set up equipment without asking permission. Even tourists who had heard about the elephant whisperer on social media showed up with their phones, trying to take selfies. But the worst arrivals came in unmarked black vehicles with tinted windows. Zara didn't know who these people were, but the way they examined the elephants with cold, calculating eyes made her stomach feel sick. These people didn't care about elephant intelligence or wildlife conservation. They saw dollar signs. Lots and lots of dollar signs. Dr. Maccaro tried desperately to control the growing chaos. "Everyone needs to back away from the animals. You're causing them severe stress." But nobody listened to him. Photographers tried to push closer for better shots. Scientists began setting up their equipment without permission. The business people made phone calls about heights, acquisition opportunities, and profit margins. The elephants became more upset by the hour. Some of the younger elephants made distressed calls. The babies huddled close to their mothers, frightened by all the noise and strange humans. Kesi stayed pressed tightly against Zara's side, trembling. He had never seen so many humans before, and their aggressive, greedy energy terrified him. "It's okay, little guy," Zara whispered. but she was scared too. That's when she noticed something that made her heart race with pure fear. 3 men from the unmarked black vehicles were quietly setting up what looked like tranquilizer equipment behind one of the trucks. "Dr. Mukaro," she shouted. "Those men have dart guns!" Dr. Mukaro looked where she was pointing and went completely pale. "Those aren't legitimate researchers. They're illegal wildlife traders." Wildlife traders. Criminals who capture rare animals to sell them to private zoos, circuses, or wealthy collectors who wanted exotic pets. If they successfully tranquilized and captured elephants this intelligent, the elephants would spend the rest of their lives in small cages, performing tricks for money instead of living free with their families. "We have to stop them," Zara said frantically. But before anyone could act, the ancient grandfather elephant made a decision that changed everything. He trumpeted once, loudly and clearly. It wasn't an angry sound or a scared sound. It was a command, the kind of sound a wise leader makes when it's time to take action. Immediately, all 100 elephants began to move. They didn't scatter in panic like the humans expected them to do. Instead, they formed perfect lines, like well-trained soldiers, preparing for the most important battle of their lives. The grandfather rumbled complex instructions to the other family leaders, and they translated his commands to their own herds, with their own rumbling calls. Zara listened carefully and realized what they were saying. Protect Zara. Protect our families. Protect each other. Show these humans who we really are. "Oh my God," Dr. Walsh breathed in amazement. "They're organizing a coordinated defense strategy." The elephants moved with incredible intelligence and teamwork. The largest, strongest adults formed the outer circle, facing the humans with their impressive tusks ready for action. The teenagers created a second line of defense. The mothers with babies moved to the very center, surrounding Zara and Kesi like a living fortress. It was the most sophisticated group defense that any scientist had ever witnessed from wild elephants. "This is impossible," Dr. Hartwell muttered, staring in disbelief. "Wild elephants don't coordinate military-style tactics like this." "These elephants do," Zara said firmly, pride filling her voice. The wildlife traders raised their tranquilizer guns, ready to fire at the magnificent animals. But before they could shoot, something absolutely amazing happened. The grandfather elephant looked directly at them and spoke in clear, perfect English that everyone could hear. "No, hurt, Zara." The entire crowd of humans fell completely silent. News cameras captured every second. Scientists dropped their equipment in total shock. A wild elephant had just spoken English to defend his human family member. But the grandfather wasn't finished. He looked directly at the wildlife traders and repeated his message, even louder this time. "No, hurt, family." The other elephants joined in, their voices creating a chorus of broken but understandable English. "No hurt, Zara. No hurt, family. No hurt, babies. We protect." Over 100 elephants speaking English together, defending their adopted human daughter and each other from people who wanted to harm them. The wildlife traders backed away quickly, their faces pale with fear and shock. Even criminals knew better than to fight 100 elephants who could think, plan, organize, and communicate like this. Dr. Hartwell dropped his megaphone. Ms. Stone ended her phone call immediately. The tourists stopped taking pictures and stared in wonder. Everyone finally understood what Zara had known for days. These weren't just smart animals following their instincts. They were people, Elephant people with their own language, culture, families, and fierce love for each other. And nobody, absolutely nobody, was going to hurt their family. But as the crowd of humans slowly backed away from the defensive elephant formation, Zara realized something that filled her with terrible dread. Now that the whole world knew how incredible these elephants were, the danger wasn't ending. It was just beginning. That night, while the helicopters and trucks retreated to set up camps at a safe distance, Zara sat with her elephant family under the brilliant African stars. But the peaceful feeling from their earlier days together was completely gone. Everything had changed in the worst possible way. Kesi hadn't left her side all day. He seemed to understand that the other humans wanted to take him away from her, to separate him from his family, and put him in a cage somewhere far from home. The ancient grandfather elephant approached slowly and sat beside them, a mountain of wisdom and gentle strength. In his deep, careful English, he said, "Zara, sad." It wasn't a question. Elephants were excellent at reading human emotions, and he could clearly see the pain and worry written all over her face. "Yes," Zara admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm terrified for all of you." "Why humans want hurt family?" the grandfather asked, struggling with the English words, but absolutely determined to understand. Zara tried her best to explain about money and greed, about people who captured wild animals for profit, about how some humans didn't understand that animals had feelings and families and the right to be free. She told him about circuses and private zoos where elephants lived in tiny spaces and performed tricks for entertainment. The grandfather listened very carefully to every word, then made soft rumbles to the other elephants. Soon, they were all having a serious conversation in their complex elephant language, discussing this terrible new information about some humans. Dr. Mukaro, who had been respectfully quiet during their family discussion, finally spoke up. "Zara, we need to talk about your options." "My options?" "The world knows about you and these elephants now. There's no going back to the way things were. Scientists from every country want to study how you communicate with elephants. Governments want to understand what it means to have animals this intelligent. And unfortunately, some very wealthy people want to capture and exploit this discovery for money." Dr. Walsh nodded sadly. "If you stay here in the open, more people will keep coming. Eventually, someone with enough money or government connections will find a way to take some of these elephants, no matter how much we try to protect them." "But if I leave..." Zara's voice broke as she said the words. "If I leave, I'll lose my family." Kesi made a distressed sound and wrapped his trunk around her wrist even tighter, like he was afraid she might disappear. The grandmother elephant had been listening carefully to the human conversation. Now she rumbled something complex and important to the grandfather, and he nodded his massive head thoughtfully. "Zara," the grandfather said in his deep English voice, "we choose." "Choose what?" The old elephant struggled to find the right English words for such an important conversation. "Choose leave. Find safe place. Choose stay, fight. Danger every day. Choose together. Always family." Zara's heart felt like it was breaking as she realized what he was trying to tell her. The elephants had been discussing their options too during their family meeting. They could migrate to a much more remote area where humans rarely went. They could stay here and fight to protect their territory from people who wanted to harm them. Or "You want us to stay together no matter what happens?" she asked. All the elephants rumbled in agreement. Even the babies seemed to understand that they were making the most important family decision of their lives. "But I'm human," Zara said through her tears. "I don't really belong in the wild forever. I can't live like an elephant for the rest of my life." The grandmother approached and gently touched Zara's face with her trunk. Then she did something incredible that made Zara gasp. She picked up Zara's camera very carefully and handed it to her. The message was perfectly clear. You can still be human. You can still take pictures and do the work you love. But you can also be our daughter. "They're offering you an impossible choice," Dr. Mukaro said quietly. "Stay and become the bridge between the elephant world and human world, or return to normal human society and let them face all these dangers alone." Zara looked around at her elephant family, at Kesi, who had saved her broken heart when she thought it would never heal again, at the grandmother, who had welcomed her with such incredible kindness, at the grandfather, who had learned English just so he could communicate with her better, at all the babies, teenagers, and adults who sang her sister's lullaby every single night. Then she thought about Maya, her precious little sister who had died too young. Maya, who would have absolutely loved these gentle giants. Maya, who had always believed that love could overcome any obstacle, no matter how big or scary. "I can't abandon them," Zara said firmly, her voice growing stronger. "But I also can't let the world forget what we've discovered here." She stood up and faced the distant lights of the news camps and research stations. "Dr. Mukaro, Dr. Walsh, I need your help with something very important." "Anything," Dr. Walsh said immediately. "We're going to tell this story the right way, not as a circus act or a money-making opportunity, but as proof that elephants deserve the same respect and protection we give to any intelligent beings." Dr. Mukaro nodded eagerly. "A proper scientific documentation that shows the world who these elephants really are." "More than just that," Zara said, her voice growing stronger and more determined. "We're going to show the world that these elephants aren't just smart. They're capable of love, adoption, music, language, and sacrifice. They're people who happen to have trunks instead of hands and live in families instead of houses." The grandfather elephant trumpeted softly in approval of her brave words. "And then what?" Dr. Walsh asked. Zara looked down at Kesi, who gazed up at her with complete trust and unconditional love, shining in his intelligent eyes. "Then we're going to make sure that no one ever tries to put any of them in cages again. We're going to change the world's laws about elephants. We're going to make sure they're protected forever." But as Zara made her brave declaration under the starlit African sky, she didn't know that someone in the distant camps was already making detailed plans to capture her elephant family. Someone who had been listening to every single word through powerful long-range microphones. Someone who saw these incredibly intelligent elephants not as a family to be protected, but as the most valuable animals on Earth. The real test of the bond between Zara and her elephants was about to begin. And this time, love might not be enough to save them. 3 days later, Zara thought they had found the perfect solution to their dangerous situation. Working closely with Dr. Mukaro and Dr. Walsh, she had been carefully documenting everything about elephant intelligence and communication. They had recorded hours of elephant conversations, filmed the daily care rituals that showed how elephants took care of each other, and captured beautiful footage of the evening lullaby sessions that brought tears to everyone's eyes. The plan was to release a documentary film that would change how the world saw elephants forever. Instead of being seen as simple animals that could be captured and used for entertainment, elephants would be recognized as intelligent beings who deserved protection, respect, and the right to live free with their families. Several major conservation organizations had already expressed strong interest in their work. The Kenyan government was seriously considering creating a special protected reserve just for these elephant families, where they could live safely without fear of being captured or harmed. This could completely revolutionize animal rights laws worldwide, Dr. Walsh said excitedly as she reviewed their incredible footage on her laptop. Zara felt hopeful for the first time since the crowds of people had arrived. Maybe they really could share this amazing discovery with the world without putting her elephant family in terrible danger. But that morning, Kofi the local guide approached Zara with news that made her blood run cold. With fear. "Miss Zara," he said quietly, looking around nervously to make sure no one else could hear. "Them? I have been watching the camps very carefully. Some of those people are not who they say they are." "What do you mean?" Zara asked, though she had a terrible feeling she already knew the answer. "The woman, Ms. Stone, from the Animal Park Company. She has been meeting secretly with the men in the black vehicles late at night. They are planning something for tonight, when everyone is sleeping." Dr. Mukaro overheard their conversation and joined them immediately. "What kind of plan are they making?" Kofi looked around again, then spoke in a whisper. "They have brought more tranquilizer equipment than before. Big trucks with steel cages hidden under tarps. They want to take some elephants while everyone sleeps, and most people aren't watching." "They wouldn't dare try something like that," Dr. Walsh said, but her voice sounded worried. "There are too many witnesses here, too many cameras and reporters." "They don't want all the elephants," Kofi explained carefully. "Just the baby, Kesi, and maybe 2 or 3 others. The ones who speak English the best. They think if they move very fast and very quietly, they can be gone with the elephants before anyone notices what happened." Zara's heart completely stopped beating for a moment. "Kesi?" She looked across the clearing where her little elephant was playing happily with the other babies, completely unaware that evil people wanted to steal him away from his family and put him in a cage forever. "We have to contact the authorities right away," Dr. Mukaro said urgently. "The nearest police station is 4 hours away by truck," Kofi replied sadly, "and some of these people have powerful government connections. They might not face any real punishment, even if they are caught." Zara felt sick to her stomach. After everything they had shared, after the beautiful connection, the music, the adoption into the family, someone still wanted to steal her elephants just to make money from them. "We have to warn the herd immediately," she said. But when Zara tried to explain the danger to the grandfather elephant using their shared English and elephant language, his reaction completely surprised her. He didn't seem shocked or angry about the news. Instead, he made calm, thoughtful rumbles to the other adult elephants, like he had been expecting exactly this kind of threat. "You already knew?" Zara asked in amazement. "Elephants? Very smart," the grandfather said in his careful, deep English voice. "We listen very carefully. We watch everything. We know bad humans coming tonight." The grandmother joined their conversation with her own complex rumbles, and Zara suddenly realized something incredible. The elephants had been secretly preparing for this threat for days. "What's your plan?" she asked, hardly believing what she was hearing. The grandfather made a series of very specific rumbles to the entire herd of over 100 elephants. Immediately, all the elephants began moving with clear purpose and amazing organization. But they weren't preparing to fight the humans with violence or to run away in fear. They were preparing to teach the bad humans a lesson they would never, ever forget. As darkness fell across the African savanna, Zara watched in complete amazement as her elephant family executed the most sophisticated plan she had ever seen from any animal. First, the teenage elephants quietly moved through the area around all the camps, using their strong trunks to carefully disable vehicle engines and puncture truck tires. They worked as silently as elephant ninjas, making sure the kidnappers couldn't escape quickly with their stolen elephants. Meanwhile, the adult elephants positioned themselves at strategic points all around the camps. They weren't hiding from the humans, they were making themselves visible enough to distract attention from what the teenagers were doing to the vehicles. Huayinsiui, mothers with babies, created a fake sleeping area in plain sight where the kidnappers would expect to find easy targets, while the real babies were hidden safely in a cave system the elephants had discovered days earlier. Finally, Kesi and 3 other young elephants who could speak English positioned themselves exactly where the kidnappers planned to strike their attack. "This is absolutely incredible," Dr. Walsh whispered as she watched through night vision binoculars. "They're setting up an elaborate trap for the humans." At exactly midnight, just as Kofi had predicted, Ms. Stone and 6 men with tranquilizer guns crept silently toward the sleeping elephants. They raised their weapons carefully, aimed at Kesi and the other young elephants who appeared to be defenseless, and fired their darts. But instead of collapsing unconsciously, the young elephants immediately stood up and trumpeted loudly, not in pain or fear, but in victory and triumph. The tranquilizer darts had hit perfectly crafted fake elephant shapes made of mud, grass, and sticks. The real elephants had never been in any danger at all. Before the shocked kidnappers could reload their weapons, they found themselves completely surrounded by angry adult elephants emerging from the darkness like gray ghosts. The grandfather, elephant, stepped into the moonlight and spoke in his deep, clear English. "Bad humans. Try steal babies. Very, very bad." Ms. Stone dropped her tranquilizer gun in complete terror. "Elephants have families too," the grandmother added in her gentler but firm voice. "Babies belong with mothers and fathers." More elephants joined the conversation, each speaking in broken but perfectly understandable English. "No take Kesi away from Zara. No hurt our family. Bad humans learn respect now." The kidnappers tried desperately to run back to their vehicles, but they quickly discovered that their trucks wouldn't start and all their tires were completely flat. They were trapped, surrounded by over 100 elephants who were clearly much smarter than any of them had ever imagined. Kesi approached the trembling Ms. Stone, who was now sitting on the ground crying with fear. In his sweet, innocent baby voice, he asked, "Why you want hurt me? I never do anything bad to you." Ms. Stone broke down sobbing. "I'm sorry," she cried. "I'm so sorry. I didn't understand. I didn't know you were people." By morning, when the authorities finally arrived after being called by Dr. Macaro's satellite phone, They found the would-be kidnappers sitting quietly in a circle, completely surrounded by elephants who were calmly eating their breakfast. The elephants had proven they could protect themselves and their family using intelligence, planning, and teamwork instead of violence. News of the amazing elephant sting operation spread around the world within hours. Videos of elephants speaking English to defend their babies went viral on every social media platform imaginable. Public opinion changed completely overnight. Instead of seeing elephants as valuable things that could be bought and sold, people began to see them as intelligent beings capable of complex thought, deep emotion, and incredible love for their families. Wildlife trafficking organizations faced intense international pressure. Laws protecting elephant rights were proposed in dozens of countries around the world. But most importantly, Zara realized something that filled her heart with pride and wonder. Her elephant family didn't need her to protect them. They were perfectly capable of protecting themselves. The question now was, what would come next for all of them? 6 months later, Zara sat by the same watering hole where this incredible journey had begun, watching Kesi play with his elephant cousins in the golden afternoon light. He had grown much bigger and stronger, but he still wrapped his trunk around her wrist every morning like the sweetest hug in the world. The world had changed in amazing ways since the elephant revelation, as the newspapers called it. International laws now protected elephants as non-human persons with legal rights, just like people. Wildlife trafficking penalties had increased by 1,000%. Elephant reserves around the world reported that their elephants were beginning to show similar intelligence and communication abilities. It was like Zara's elephant family had awakened something special in elephants everywhere. Dr. Mukaro had established the first interspecies communication research center right here in Kenya. Scientists came from every continent to study elephant language and intelligence, but always with respect, and never trying to harm or capture the elephants. Dr. Walsh had published a groundbreaking scientific paper called The Elephant Adoption Phenomenon that completely revolutionized animal psychology and changed how people thought about animal families. And Zara had become the world's first official elephant-human ambassador, helping governments and conservation groups understand what elephants were really saying and what they needed to live happy, safe lives. But the most amazing change of all was deeply personal. For the first time since Maya's terrible death, Zara felt completely whole again. The horrible, empty hole in her heart had been filled by a family of gentle giants who had chosen to love her when she desperately needed it most. Today was extra special, though. Today, Zara had wonderful news to share with her elephant Furtuan family. She gathered them in their usual evening circle as the sun painted the African sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple. Kesi snuggled against her side while the grandfather and grandmother elephants settled nearby, their wise eyes full of love and attention. "I have something very important to tell all of you," Zara began, her voice thick with emotion. The elephants rumbled softly, giving her their complete attention the way families do when someone has big news to share. "Remember when I first came here? I was so sad because my little sister Maya had died, and I thought I would never have a real family again." The grandmother made sympathetic rumbles. All the elephants knew Maya's story now. Zara had told them everything about her sister, and they had added Maya's memory to their own family history, the way elephants always remembered their loved ones. "You saved me," Zara continued, tears beginning to flow down her cheeks. You gave me love when I thought love was gone forever from my life. You made me part of your family when I felt completely alone in the world. Kesi made his special rumbling sound, the sound he only made for Zara, his adopted human sister. But now I understand something I didn't know before. Maya didn't really leave me behind. She'd me here, straight to all of you. The lullaby I sang while saving Kesi from the mud pit? That was Maya's favorite lullaby. The love I needed to heal my broken heart? That came through Maya's spirit guiding me to you. The elephants listened with deep attention as Zara explained the incredible connection she had finally understood. I think Maya knew that someday I would need a new family. And somehow, she also knew that you would need a human sister who understood loss and love, and the importance of never giving up on the people you care about. Zara paused and looked around at all the beloved faces surrounding her. Wrinkled elephant skin, gentle, intelligent eyes, trunks that comforted her when she was sad and celebrated with her when she was happy. So, I've made a very important decision. I want to stay here with you forever. Because this is truly my home now. You are truly my family now. But I also want to honor Maya's memory by helping other humans understand what I've learned from all of you. She took a deep breath and shared her wonderful plan. I'm going to split my time between living here with you and traveling around the world to teach humans about elephant intelligence and rights. 6 months here at home with my family. 6 choice months traveling to help other elephants everywhere, but always coming back home to the people I love most. The grandfather elephant considered her words very carefully, then spoke in his deep, wise English voice. Zara, always family. Distance, not change. Love in hearts. Home, always in heart, the grandmother added with gentle wisdom. But Kesi had the most perfect response of all. He looked up at Zara with his bright, loving eyes and said something he had never said before. Zara, sister, always, always, sister. The word sister hit Zara like lightning from the sky. In all these months, Kesi had called her many wonderful things, friend, protector, family member, but never sister. It was like Maya herself was speaking through him, telling Zara that she had finally found her true place in the world. As if summoned by this beautiful emotional moment, all 100 elephants from the 6 allied families arrived for their evening gathering. They had kept their alliance strong to protect Zara and to share in the joy of their interspecies family. Tonight's lullaby session was the most beautiful one yet. Zara started with Maya's precious melody, and the elephants joined in with their perfect harmony. But tonight, they added something completely new. Verses in elephant language that told the story of love, loss, rescue, healing, and family. When their magnificent song ended, the grandfather elephant made an announcement that surprised and delighted everyone. Tomorrow, new small human. Come visit family. New human? Zara asked with excitement. Small, human, sad human like Zara was. Need elephant family healing too. Dr. Macaro stepped forward to explain. We've been contacted by families around the world with children who have experienced terrible trauma, loss of parents, serious illness, deep depression. They want to know if the elephant therapy that healed your heart might help their children too. Zara's heart swelled with incredible possibility and hope. You mean? The first elephant healing program for traumatized children starts next week, Dr. Walsh confirmed with a huge smile. With you as the guide and your elephant family as the therapists. Kesi trumpeted with pure excitement. He understood that he would get to help save other humans the same way Zara had saved him from the mud pit. As the brilliant African stars came out over the endless savanna, Zara realized that her story had never been just about one lonely woman and one baby elephant. It had been about proving that love transcends all species, that families come in every shape and size imaginable, and that sometimes the most broken hearts can become the strongest when they're filled with unexpected, unconditional love. The elephant adoption phenomenon that had started with Kesi saving Zara's heart had grown into a global movement for animal rights, interspecies communication, and therapeutic relationships between humans and elephants. But for Zara, curled up under the infinite stars with Kesi's trunk wrapped lovingly around her, wrist and 100 elephant hearts beating protectively around her, the most important discovery was beautifully simple. Love always finds a way. Maya's love had led her to Kesi. Kesi's love had led her to the herd. The herd's love had led her to a brand new purpose in life. And now that love would reach out to touch other broken hearts around the world, healing them the way she had been healed. As she drifted off to sleep, surrounded by her chosen family, Zara whispered a prayer of gratitude to her sister Maya, to the universe that had brought her to this magical place, and to the gentle giants who had taught her the most important truth of all. Family isn't about blood or species or looking the same. Family is about choosing to love unconditionally, protect fiercely, and never ever give up on each other. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new children to heal, new discoveries about elephant intelligence, and new challenges in the ongoing fight for animal rights around the world. But tonight, Zara Chen, photographer, elephant whisperer, bridge between two worlds, and beloved sister to the most extraordinary family on earth, was exactly where she belonged. Home. Maya's lullaby still echoes across the African plains every evening, sung by a family that proves love knows no boundaries. And somewhere among the stars, a little girl named Maya smiles, knowing her sister finally found her way home. Wasn't that an incredible journey of love, family, and the amazing intelligence of elephants? Zara and Kesi's story shows us that kindness can change everything, not just for one person or one animal, but for the entire world. We'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and tell us your city or country. Are there any elephants near where you live? If this story touched your heart the way it touched ours, please hit that like button to help us spread more kindness around the world. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories that will make you believe in the power of love and friendship. There's another incredible animal story waiting for you right now. Just click on the video appearing on your screen. Trust us, you won't want to miss it. Thanks for joining Zara and her elephant family on this magical adventure. Remember, sometimes the biggest hearts come in the most unexpected packages. Keep spreading kindness, and we'll see you in the next story.